Thank you very much, Sjokz. As you say, a do-or-die game here for Misfits. Even with a win, they are not guaranteed playoffs, but with a loss, they are guaranteed to be out of it. If Vitality win, we'll see both SK and Fnatic in our playoffs. Fnatic, of course, for the 17th time in a row.
I don't know if my heart can take another day of games like yesterday and the day before. It's been upset central. Vitality have already had their playoffs hopes broken, of course, but definitely have the chance to play spoiler here today up against Misfits. And honestly, I look at our lineup of games, I have no idea which way they're going to break. Yeah. We have no clue who's going to be in playoffs, who our top 6 will be at the end of the day.
It's actually just absurd how many upsets we've had. And the question is, can Vitality keep that upset train rolling? Because if they are able to upset Misfits and inform Misfits, a Misfits that are 5-1 in the second half of the season, they can deny Misfits playoffs. Jump on to the draft. Vitality on the blue side, Misfits on the red. We've seen Azir fall down in priority. Expectations are still Hecarim high up there, the Lilia high up there, Rell, Kai'Sa, also names on everyone's lips.
Yeah, I actually like that you drew it to the jungle pick attention early on, because looking at the drafting history between these two teams, Misfits, especially on red side, have almost always been willing to leave that Hecarim up and take that Lilia trade. Lilia, a very comfortable champion for Razork to be piloting. Usually they'll end up getting their bot lane along with that for their first 3 picks. So already no Hecarim ban lines up with my expectations coming into this draft.
Means that we have a lot of options open for this first pick for Vitality. Thresh removed, TF. Jace, Silas taken away from Vetheo. We already heard from Vedius how impactful he was on that champion. We saw on day 1 against Mad Lions as well. So now Vitality just waiting for this final ban from Misfits.
We'll see what they end up going with. Of course, still things like the Rell very high up in priority has been left untouched here. My expectation, though, could be to see a Hecarim come through for Vitality and that Lilia follow up, like I was mentioning a little bit earlier. If they wanted to go the support route, that would also not be too unexpected. Teams both sort of have Hecarim and Rell up in a very similar tier at the very, very top of what's best right now.
And the big issue is here for Vitality, whichever one of them you pick, if it's Gnar instead, well, I was going to say Misfits get 2. Misfits get 2 good choices out of those 3, right? You've got Rell, Kai'Sa, and Hecarim available. So Misfits go Kai'Sa, Rell here, and Vitality can still get the Hecarim. Now, Gnar first pick.
But, I mean, right. Misfits, they're fine playing Lilia into Hecarim, but if Hecarim's still open on red side and the Rell too, might as well take that. Misfits already looking very good out of the draft, and I do know teams like the Gnar, but I'm not quite sure about the first pick priority on that champion.
Yeah, it does. It seems a little bit over-eager. Of course, Vitality out of playoffs so far, and they're not even going to take the Kai'Sa for themselves. Instead, getting Crownshot onto Xayah here.
Yeah, I do think people prefer taking the Xayah, even if Kai'Sa's not going to be stolen away here. Just give you some more survivability, that defensive output, especially when you already see a Rell and Hecarim diving at you. It makes a lot of sense to want to want that Featherstorm and value that ultimate very, very heavily.
So then we get to the point here where the expectation is Misfits will look towards the Kai'Sa. Yeah. Of course, Tristana still open as well, and we have seen Kobbe and Patrick and many players pop off on that over the last while. Instead, Vetheo!
He debuted in the LEC on the Zoe against Fnatic. Everyone remembers the montage moments week 1, day 1 of this split. The man was an absolute machine.
He is the most banned champion versus Misfits in Spring. 71% of the time, Zoe has been removed from the pool. We'll see if Vetheo can have basically a perfect symmetry in his split by starting off day 1, popping off on the Zoe, and here needing a win on this Zoe to keep their playoff hopes alive.
Oh, the LEC scriptwriters could not have written it better for us.
Evan
on this one. I love that. Vitality, you can see targeting that Tristana Kobbe looked so good on earlier this weekend, and would expect that Kai'Sa to also be targeted and removed away as well. Such a strong pairing with that Rell on the bottom side, adds into that idea of heavy dive threats alongside the Hecarim, and of course with that Zoe super long range as well. Misfits comp already looking terrifying.
And we've already seen the power of the sleep from Lilia alongside a Sion. Now, HiRit is very happy to play Sion. Sion into Gnar is an okay matchup for the Sion as long as you're playing weak side. And Zoe has a sleep. You can have an unstoppable sleep combo still here for Misfits and save your pick for last if you want. There's the Kai'Sa that we expect.
Yeah, I think we call that Sion-Zoe combination the Rude Awakening there as he comes flying
That's a great one.
We'll see if we go with that for HiRit in the top side of the map. Oh man, I really do feel like Misfits have gotten just about everything they could possibly want here. Vitality need to have a really powerful mid-jungle combination here. I think to try and disrupt this Zoe in the early game, that is an area of the map where they could look to attack. And the Skarner will be locked in, so Skarner up against the Hecarim, not too unordinary out inside of the jungle, has a pretty fast clear that Speedy Boy can try to match some of the things the Hecarim can do, but more importantly than anything, I think Skarner's ultimate against a Zoe is so frustrating to deal with. Of course, her portal jump, she pops forward and always gets sent back, but if he impales you, you get sent back and then sent straight back into that Skarner one more time. So now, with a LeBlanc next to it, there is CC to set up for the Skarner. Of course, the LeBlanc-Zoe matchup, heavily debated as to who actually wins that. I think with jungle intervention, LeBlanc can try to really punish the Zoe in mid, but of course every time LeBlanc jumps forward, there's instantly going to be that sleep and some damage returned from the Zoe. So the 2v2, you definitely favor the LeBlanc there. If we see some early plays and that Zoe, that lane gets super volatile, that can definitely be an area that Vitality and Skeanz look to attack.
Milica getting his LeBlanc. Hasn't played it that much in the LEC, but was very well known for it when he was in the regional league. So I had a quick look. We've got 10 games, 60% win rate on that champ. So that mid lane matchup has to be explosive. It has to be where our eyes go in the early game. Expectations are top's a bit of a farm fest. The jungle intervention is really where we're going to start seeing these balls rolling. Misfits playoff hopes are on the line here versus Vitality. Vitality trying to do a favor to SK and Fnatic, because if they win, those teams are in.
And of course, we're also going to be looking at supports around this middle lane too. It's very spicy. We have a little bit of time before we get into game number one. You can see they're just trying to load up into the Rift as we speak. But when we see an Alistar next to a Rell on the bot side with Xayah versus Kai'Sa 2, there's threats for 2v2 around that bottom lane. We have junglers that, especially post level 6, are so threatening whenever they look to roll into a gank. So jungle movement, support movement in the early game is going to absolutely be crucial here to see who unlocks priority and gets to play on the offense in the mid game.
We found Misfits when they are on the offensive yesterday against Fnatic. They do not let up. They continue to skirmish, they continue to fight, they continue to force their advantage. Vitality still struggling a little bit after the introduction of Crownshot. I mean, they have had a better second half of the season, but they only went 1-8 in the first half, so it would have been hard to be worse. Do just have a quick update for you all. At 8 minutes and 3 seconds, Misfits reported a potential bug to League officials concerning the skills on Rell. League officials are currently investigating, and we will keep you updated as things go along.
Did they say that Rell was broken? And they thought it was, you know, disabled? Is that why they didn't ban it? No.
I mean, Misfits got the Rell, so...
Yeah, I know, exactly. That is... Oh, yeah, the Misfits reported the bug. Okay, yeah. Fair enough then. No, I mean, I also think that for Misfits, right, this team still playoff hopes very much alive for this squad. And I love that we're sort of seeing, like, the stories almost write themselves in a way, right? With Kobbe and VandeR on a power 2v2 towards the bot side, Vetheo returning to that signature Zoe pick that impressed the entire LEC when he debuted on that. That is just exquisite.
I just want to thank Kevin for telling me we were on camera after we were on camera, so I had a can of a drink in my hand that I slowly had to put down as we were doing it. We have a couple of moments. We're going to bring the intensity down a little bit. It's a shame
we don't have the button to play the groovy music.
Oh, the groovy music would have been great.
Yeah, because now the champs-like music is gone. I feel like the atmosphere is just ruined. You're looking at our ugly mugs. You know,
we will have other things to look at soon.
Okay,
I've been informed by Kevin, so
maybe we could pull up the standings, other things like these. Remind you of the critical stakes here. You, of course, did a perfect segment on Ready Check, exactly detailing what games mattered.
Yep. And every game but the Mad Lions game today has playoff implications.
Sorry,
but
Mad Lions.
There is also a way that by the second game of the day, we know our playoff teams, and we almost know the order. The only order that would get switched is the G2 Rogue order.
All right, so what results do we need in the first two games to know pretty much what our top 6 is?
Thanks for putting me right on the spot like this.
Hit me.
Great. I believe if Vitality win, and then our second game is Schalke XL, right? And XL win, I think we are locked. I'm going to check. I have a folder sheet here, by the way. lec.gg/foldy-sheet. I will check to make sure. Yeah, if Vitality win...
Wait, you're on a computer.
I am. It's.
But how can you?
I'm very strong.
Is it like one of those? Is it one of those foldy phones that you can? It's no, like a foldy monitor.
You've not seen. I'm bulky, man. You just. I have to buy a new monitor every time I do it. Like, it's annoying.
Don't tell the LEC that.
Exactly. Yeah, you broke the desk. I break the monitor. That's how it works. Yes. So if Vitality win and XL win, we will lock our top 6 teams. It'll be SK, XL, Fnatic, Vitality, G2, and Rogue. Not Vitality. G2, Rogue, Mad, Fnatic, SK, XL.
Nailed it.
Yeah, I did, just in the end. But coming back into this game specifically, obviously, Misfits are just looking for the win themselves. If they lose, they are out. But even if they win this, there are scenarios where they don't make it into playoffs. So it's that kind of uneasy feeling because they had such a poor first half of the season. They're now coming in with a great win-loss in the second half of the split, but really, they don't have their destiny in their own hands anymore.
Yeah, and ultimately in the Misfit camps, all they're going to be saying is focus on the game, win this game, and then we'll cross our fingers and hope for the best, because that's the only thing you can ultimately control. And I feel like if you actually look at the draft, they got just about anything they could possibly want. I mean, their red side, both Hecarim and Rell are left open for them. They lock those in. It's like, sweet, you love it. Then they get Vetheo Zoe, which magically isn't banned. And then somehow through the second rotation, Kai'Sa's still open.
I know,
like,
right?
What's going on here?
It's actually just absurd how strong this composition is. You look at it like Zoe, Vetheo on Zoe has a 100% win rate. I'm actually going to have a quick look across all of our win rates for the Misfits players on these champions. What have we got? HiRit's playing Sion. He has, he's only got 1 in 3. So it's not the best pick for him, but obviously it's okay. Razork is playing the Hecarim, 100% win rate. Zoe, 100% win rate. Kai'Sa, 1 in 3 again, 33% win rate, and Rell, 33% win rate. So they're balancing out 2 really strong picks for them, and a few not so great picks.
Look, honestly, I'm not a big believer when it comes to win rates in pro play. I feel like usually, like on specific
It's how we decide all of playoffs.
Yeah. No. Okay, fair enough. Judging champions based off of their win rate.
I get that. I mean, there's a lot of like if you were to make a composition and you knew your mid laner's pocket pick was Zoe, this is a composition you would make, right, at the moment on 11-5. On the other side, of course, Vitality, they do have the pick potential we talked about. They've got the CC chain for the Skarner. They've got the Alistar. We have seen how much work Alistar can do across the course of the weekend. So they have some power. The question is, will they be able to deal with the poke and the powerful engage from Misfits?
Yeah, it does really feel like if you look at like the both 5v5 sort of in isolation, battling it out, you'd almost always favor Misfits. That being said, though, because of LeBlanc's sort of range and CC lockdown, and the Skarner too, just how fast he can be. These are the types of picks that are very difficult for Zoe to play into team fights. She always has to be very mindful of when she's actually jumping forward with that portal jump. She needs to really make use of, terrain to extend the range for even these sorts of things. So it's not the easiest game in the world for a Zoe player to play. And the great thing for Misfits is Veteo's favorite champ, it seems like, is this Zoe. And he's definitely played in situations like this before and is going to know what to do.
And he has that disengage option for the rest of the team as well. Rell can use the Magnet Storm to delay an engage from the enemy team. Hecarim can use the Onslaught of Shadows to dissuade the enemy team, to fear them from getting into the fight. So even if Misfits aren't able to go all in, they can sometimes just back out of a fight.
And fears are really effective against very fast champions because they run away super fast. I'm trying to imagine a scenario that plays out where Skarner ults the Zoe, and then Hecarim ults behind him, and then so he sends Skarner with Zoe towards his team.
It's got to be a Chemtank Shirelia's Skarner coming in, ults the Zoe with Predator,
everything.
Although most Skarners run Phase Rush.
Phase Rush works too.
That's
that's the hot combination right now.
Exactly. Phase Rush. We are just making sure that everything is sorted behind the scenes, so you're going to be stuck with our faces for a little bit more, I am afraid. But let's take a bigger look at sort of the league at large, Endo, because we talked a lot about the draft. We haven't seen any gameplay yet, so there's not much more to analyze.
I love draft theory.
I mean,
yes,
great.
Let's talk about that.
Sorry?
Are you being spoken to?
Yes, he spoke to me as I was saying it, then I included him in the conversation. Viewers at home, at 8 minutes, 3 seconds, Misfits reported a potential bug to League officials concerning the skills on Rell. League officials are currently investigating and will keep you updated. I will say, because we have a moment, Kevin, I'm sorry. Usually that's fine, but today, for some reason, I've decided everyone can hear your voice, and thus when I reply to you, they can hear.
I think we should just loop Kevin in. Like, we should give Kevin speed.
I'm still trying to convince him to be on the caster desk.
No, I don't even want him. I just want, like, the voice of God to rain down.
That'd be great.
It's like, you need to toss now.
What they don't realize is Kevin actually has a really high-pitched voice. It doesn't sound like God at all. It's very high-pitched, like falsetto level.
Wow.
Yes. You knew that, obviously, because you've heard him in your ear.
Yeah, I'll just go along with your lies.
Thanks.
Sure.
Anyway, let's have a talk about the league at large, because if we do have the standings, it would be great if we could bring them up, because when you look at it, you can see what should have been a very easy road for our teams to make it into playoffs. Like SK and Fnatic, for the last 3 or 4 games, we've been saying, you should make it into playoffs with a win, and they haven't been able to do that. And then you have teams rising up, like XL, of course, who have come off the back of beating G2 and Rogue, and then Schalke, who are winning a few games here or there, actually have had a very good weekend so far. So it's kind of created this concertina effect where the middle of the pack is just so incredibly close.
Yeah, it's like everyone in the middle of the pack is just winning all their games, and then everyone at the top is just losing all their games. So it's just crunching the entire standings. Well, even you had like a team like Astralis show up post-elimination that actually handed Vitality a loss and continued to play spoiler. Now it's Vitality's chance to do that on the final day of the season for them up against Misfits here. But, I mean, coming into this week, I thought there was absolutely no shot in the world that XL could do anything.
Oh, exactly.
Right? Like, they had the hardest strength of schedule remaining with G2 and Rogue. They'd never beaten a team above them in the standings before, and they were on like a 7-game loss streak.
Yep.
And then they beat both of those teams in a row. They're still not in a great position, 1 game under a lot of the other teams fighting for it, but that doesn't eliminate them just yet, which is the craziest part.
It's actually just absurd how much XL have done, and the fact that they might still not make playoffs after beating our top 2 teams. For now, that's it from us, though. We're going to hand it back across towards the analyst desk.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much. That's not what you want. We had such a good ready check. We set all the stakes. We were all hyped up, and so were the players. Unfortunate. We're going to try and make it bearable.
By making a fake monologue where we jinxed no one, did we jinx ourselves, perhaps?
Perhaps. We tried to game the system. Yeah, we tried to game the system. Once again, at 8:03 in the game, Misfits reported a potential bug to League officials concerning the skills on Rell, and League officials are currently investigating. We will keep you updated. We'll get the draft up also because we got Ender's opinion and Medic's opinion, but these guys might be smarter, right? Who knows? So let's see. A couple of things, of course, what already has been talked about. Comfort zone for a lot of people, right? Especially for Vetheo in the mid lane.
Oh yeah, the moment I saw that Zoe pick, I was like, oh, he actually got the champion again. And this is what we were talking about, right? Vetheo, throughout the split, well, at the beginning of the split, it was like, oh, he can only play Zoe, and if he doesn't get it, then he can't have impact. But things like the Ryze have come up, things like Lucian, Tristana, he's played a wealth of other champions. And so now, like, look at this. Ryze ban, Sylas ban. That respect specifically towards Vetheo means that his other comfort picks are now open. And I think that that goes to show the amount of growth that he has made, because now he gets to go back to his comfort, and maybe he can help bring this Misfit squad to playoffs.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting to see how Milica will fare in this mid lane matchup, because I think it's really important that this LeBlanc pick has impact. Because when I look at these compositions on paper, if Misfits are ever in a lead, it's so easy for them to push an advantage. They have so many tools to be proactive. Zoe, once she breaks mid-tier 1, is just such an impactful champion overall. And then Kobbe on this Kai'Sa. Normally, I'm not a big fan of Kobbe's Kai'Sa, but after the Tristana performance yesterday, again, I am a believer, and it's very, very easy with this much CC for Kai'Sa to play a team fight any way that she wants to.
I think Misfits comp also just outscales, right? So if they do get ahead early, it then becomes very difficult for Vitality to come back. One of the advantages that they do have is they do have a strong top side. They have a very strong mid laner. I'm not entirely convinced about Skarner LeBlanc. Normally, if you're going to play a LeBlanc, you want a very aggressive mid lane matchup that you can then set up with. But LeBlanc is so good at setting up for herself, maybe it'll be fine. But they also have a pretty strong bot side. So I think the Vitality have a lot of tools to get ahead in the early game. But as you rightly said, Drakos, it is very much about getting this LeBlanc ahead. And if they can do that, then Vitality are off to a good position.
All right, I do have an update for you before we go back to that discussion. As said already, at 8:03 minutes in the game, Misfits reported a bug to League officials concerning the skills on Rell. And now the League officials have confirmed the bug and offered Misfits a chrono break, which they accepted. We are now in the process of initiating the chrono break and will keep you updated. If it is successful, the game will resume before the bug happened, and that should be the most painless solution of all. We've had a couple in the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
Unfortunate.
Yes, we have. We've had a few interesting bugs. The Samira one was my favorite.
Yeah. Oh, now we're into like what would our favorite bugs?
Favorite bugs.
Maybe Riot would be like, producer, don't have them talk about something else, please. This is not what we want.
There's a list.
There's a list. Last time when we had a long pause, people were like, we want you to talk about these things, but this is territory that might be.
Well, I think what we can say for sure, regardless of the nature of the bug, is that this is I don't want to say the best time for a bug to happen. Obviously, it's best if it just doesn't happen at all. But it's not the Samira bug. We're not in a game state where like one team is very close to winning or anything really significant has happened. And while maybe some of these early game strategies, some early pathings are going to be interrupted or disrupted, for the most part, you will get to play a relatively fresh game.
And as a reminder, we do, of course, play on a delay for competitive integrity.
Yes.
And so because everyone playing online, they play ahead and then we kind of catch up. Which then, of course, means that because of these things, when we get into the game, we'll have a very seamless transition, as you were talking about earlier, Sjokz. So there are pros and cons to all of this, which is very exciting.
It's awesome. I should be tossing soon, and that's the forever jinx if you get that from the producers. But yes, there is not so much more to talk about, because I think we talked so much about how Misfits have now found their identity at the beginning, and this does look like it kind of fits the picture of what they would want to do. Then the question is, you know that you can do this now. We've seen it now twice this weekend. You should be in kind of a rhythm, but you also know that this is now the do or die game again. So that is all what can influence
I mean, I think that the team is riding on a high. Deficio messaged me last night saying, like, there's no way we don't do it. You know, the confidence seems...
Oh, yeah, he messaged me saying, wait, how do we get it? And are we out and who has to lose as well?
So at least...
Not afraid to ask for help, that one.
But it seems to me that, as you rightly said, Misfits are just going from strength to strength. They're playing very well right now. They know how to play. And importantly, like, we've said it a lot, but it's the mid-jungle that I think is where a lot of the inconsistency came from during the regular season. Razork would have very high highs, low lows. Vetheo was struggling because he couldn't find a champion that he often had success on. But once they figured that part of the puzzle out, everything else just seemed to kind of slot into place.
And I also think when you are Misfits at this point in your schedule, you're pretty happy with your final opponent. Now, I would have been worried at the start of the week because, again, Vitality were hoping for the miracle run. And once that was taken away, we saw what happened to Astralis once they were knocked into playoffs contention. Zanzar unleashed, absolute monster, upsets left and right. But Vitality have kind of looked a little bit broken, a little bit fatigued. Crownshot has been playing very, very, very aggressively, and it has almost always backfired on him, whether it's been overstaying and over-pushing in side lanes or over-committing to 1v1 fights that he ends up losing. It hasn't been a pretty picture the last few days. Now, maybe Vitality can rally, but in terms of mental fortitude overall, Vitality definitely look like they have been struggling on stage, so Misfits pretty happy with the way the schedule has played out.
However, this has been the weekend of upsets.
True.
And the thing is, in this situation, Misfits is the favorite. You know what I'm saying? And like, we know that not all teams are safe from the curse of the upsets. All we know is that so far, I think 1 game per day has gone as expected.
Yeah.
So the question is, which game will go as planned and which game will be a coin? Will it be that G2 actually wins a game?
Well,
could that be the shocker?
That would be truly surprising. But what I will say is that if you are a fan either of Vitality or of a general state of chaos, which I frankly am in this final day, you are rooting for the Misfits gaming win because it keeps the tiebreaker alive. If Vitality wins, rather, it kind of breaks, or Vitality winning kind of breaks everything because it starts knocking people out. Yeah, so if Vitality win, Misfits can't get to 9 wins, which stops our incredible 9-9 tiebreaker scenario, and it means that a lot of other teams start to lock in, and it means then playoff seeding will still be important, but the final team to be locked into playoffs will be decided by game 2, which will either be Schalke or Excel. So if you're a fan of chaos, you want Misfits in this playoff race.
I'm a fan of chaos. If it wasn't, you know, visible by that opening skit. I love my chaos. I thought an update was coming, but apparently not. I've been trickstered.
The soon.
Can we
hit you again?
Can we get the replay of the maniacal laugh? Can that be the update?
I believe Kevin's try talking. I think he's trying to talk to me.
Okay. So what I think is that what made that segment was the maniacal laugh. I was nervous when there was just fire and Effia standing in front of the wall, but then the maniacal laugh really sold me. And I think if you are Crownshot at this point, you're hoping that after a difficult season with Vitality, a difficult year before that, you're hoping to end with a similar level of maniacal laugh. That's what you want, to just crush someone else's dreams, absolute spite finish, and...
Didn't ever know that the back of my head would ever be shown on camera. That's sorry, that just completely... I didn't know we had that angle. That's...
Are you wishing you took that hairdresser appointment now? Or?
No,
I'm kidding. You look great. So before we go off too much off track, because some feedback we often get is when we do go in pauses and when it's such a serious day that we get off track. I was looking today at all the possibilities and also at a lot of rosters, and with many of these rosters, even a Vitality, and you could even say Astralis in the last 2 weeks, although they haven't been doing it the rest of the split, so many of these rosters look like they would be very good candidates to make a run in the playoffs because of the things they've shown at different points in the split, right? If you think of an SK, if you think about a Misfits, even if you think about others, but we are going to toss to the casters right now, so you don't get to give your opinion on that. Let's get back into the game.
Thank you very much, Sjokz. We will jump into the opening of the game. However, we are unable to record the events between the 4 and the 7-minute mark, so we won't be able to show those on broadcast. Now, during that time, no kills happened, but Misfits did manage to secure the first Ocean Drake. At 4 minutes, we'll jump ahead towards minute 7. We obviously apologize for the missed gameplay. We're going to get on into the action as soon as we can. And just because the mechanics behind Chrono Break and the way all of the systems work, we weren't quite able to get all of that footage.
Yeah, this is now normally when I would give some Chrono Break story about how I was on stage for the first ever Chrono Break as a referee, and you know, there were great times, but we won't do that because our games today matter just a little bit more. Huge stakes riding on this game. Misfits need a win to remain in the playoffs race. Even then, it won't necessarily be all in their hands.
Yeah. We are going to get on into the game. Let's do it! Took us a little bit of time to get started, but let's jump on into the action.
Cue the music.
I don't know if we'll have the music.
Do, 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 do.
There we are. Well, we have the League of Legends music, which is great. We're going to get on in. Here we go. Jump on in. So here we are. The first 4 minutes of gameplay, and then at 4 minutes, we'll skip forward towards 7 minutes. And I'll explain to you again at that time what happens in those 3 minutes that we miss.
Yeah, all right. So again, the big reminders coming in to this game, looking at the draft, was Vitality actually didn't really contest a lot of the things that Misfits were looking for. Hecarim, Rell were both left open, not first picked. It was a Gnar first pick for Vitality, and Misfits got everything they could possibly want. Vetheo returning to his signature Zoe pick that he played in his LEC debut and crushed Fnatic with. And it's in a potentially difficult matchup when you consider jungle intervention, what LeBlanc can offer in terms of CC with their chain early on. Skarner, even pre-level 6, has options to look around mid, but especially after level 6, can absolutely frustrate that Zoe with a lot of the plays around mid. So I'm looking at Vitality to attack around mid, and then the bot lane 2v2 to be the largest areas contention in this early game.
Once again, we see HiRit on the Sion deciding that Omni Stone is the rune of choice. We do see some spellbook Sions as well, just for the extra summon a spell cooldown, but Omni Stone, especially when you're playing weak sides, seems to be pretty good. I know I think it was you, or maybe Vedi likes the unsealed spellbook.
It's me, that was me.
Yeah, you can switch to Ignite at level 6 and look for that all in.
It was sort of like the Ornn versus Gnar matchup that was quite popular, you know, maybe a year or two ago, where against a ranged champion, you don't really want to run the grasp, you don't get value out of that. But with the spellbook, you hit level 6, you switch to Ignite, and Ornn had kill threat. And it's a little bit similar in the matchup with Sion. Sion doesn't have quite the amount of upfront burst damage with his ultimate and, you know, the brittle procs that Ornn does get, but I like the theory of that, or the Omni Stone here, like we're seeing from HiRit. Early on, looks like Misfits do have control around this bottom lane. The Skeanz will be pathing away from them, so won't see any sort of impact around Kobbe and VandeR for the time being. And like I was mentioning around mid lane, I do feel like this matchup can be very volatile. You know, if one side gets an advantage, it can definitely snowball very heavy in that direction. But early on, Zoe with her Q has pretty decent control over the minion waves, and her sleep is a pretty good way to dissuade Milica from ever jumping in.
Yeah, nice little chunk there from VandeR and Kobbe in the bottom lane. We saw VandeR dismounting into the bush and then using that W2 to get the knockback onto the Alistar. There was also a cool little mechanic from Vetheo in mid. When Milica decided to distort forwards, Vetheo put the paddle start next to where he would jump back to. Yeah. So then you can align it with the path on which the LeBlanc jumps back, and you hit it even though you might not get max damage because it hasn't gone full range.
Yeah, that's the thing about this matchup is LeBlanc can be fairly predictable. Both champions fairly predictable when they're going in and when they are hopping out. And I mean, now I understand why the early game was a little bit of a snooze fest here. Both junglers pathing opposite directions, pathing towards their lanes with priority, so not really looking for any sort of you know, dive setup, any sort of early ganks, anything like that. Instead, just using the priority to generate early advantages through these scuttle crabs.
And there's the reason Alice has picked into Rell so many times. Nice little route going in. Labrov looking for the knockback. The track repel doesn't quite land. And in 30 seconds, we will jump forward 3 minutes
so excited.
In game time.
This is recorded proof that time travel exists. And we're the first two people. We're like, you know, who's going to be Buzz Aldrin, who's going to be Lance Armstrong? That's the question. Neil Armstrong, that's the one.
Neither of them time traveled.
Yeah, but like it's the first person to step on the moon. You know?
Like people already compare me to Matt Smith.
3, 2, 1. I don't know if it's happening on 0.
It's a wipe. It's going to be a wipe. Oh. I'm not exactly sure when it's going to happen. It was in about 50 seconds apparently.
Oh, so we were lied to. We have time after 4 minutes. It's crazy.
It's fine.
This is exciting.
Yeah. Well, let's have a look at what sort of is going on in the lanes before we jump forward, because you can see there's a slight CS lead for Szygenda in the top lane as he's been able to force HiRit back, as expected, because Razork was passing to bottom side, so he didn't have jungle support. In the bottom lane, I think Kobbe and VandeR are getting the edge on this matchup with the wave in this state. Actually might be a little bit difficult for them to get this pushed all the way in. Because, as you can see, Labrov are very happy to eat up the Hecarim main. Kobbe doesn't get the cannon there. This is a nice little freeze here for the Vitality bottom lane.
Yeah, for the time being, doesn't look like anything's going to be happening. T-minus 10 seconds, a little bit less than that. T-minus 5 seconds. 3, 2, 1. And we're in the future.
Okay, we are in the future. Quickly. In those 3 minutes, Misfits were able to secure the first Ocean Drake. It actually looks like Vitality... Okay, so the scoreboard at the top says they have a kill, but nothing in the bottom says they have a kill. We will assume they have not got a kill because it's gone back to 0.
Maybe in like some sort of alternate timeline that could have happened, there was the kill.
It's one of the Infinity Stone things, right?
Exactly.
In that timeline, the Soul Stone was taken away and they managed to kill Kobbe.
Yeah, I will say that before we skipped ahead 3 minutes, we noticed Szygenda had a small CS advantage up on the top side that has extended now to 20 CS over this Sion. Skeanz continuing to play around the top side of the map, so with Misfits securing the Drake, we expect the junglers to continue playing towards their strong sides of the map, although again, no real opportunity to look for any sort of dive potential here in the top lane.
And it looks like we haven't really seen that first gank towards mid lane either. You said mid lane could be explosive. Neither of them has died. There's a slight CS lead for Vetheo. Has got the Ignite into teleport in that matchup here. It's going to be forced away here by Szygenda.
Wow, and you actually look at the minimap right now. VandeR has made his way all the way up through the river from bot lane. Obviously, they saw Skeanz starting off the Rift Herald, and they didn't want to have anything to do with that. So now both supports are hovering around the mid lane. Labrov doesn't really have an opportunity to find some sort of gank. The first reset did come through from Crownshot. Looking at itemization, it looks like Kobbe should be sitting on quite a fair amount of gold, so likely looking for his own base timing after he pushes out this next wave. He's got a solid chunk of money right there, so that'll be all right for him.
It's about 400 gold between the two top laners, a slight lead for Vetheo in the mid lane and a slight lead for Crownshot in the bottom lane. But the margins are slim so far, with so much on the line in this game, with Misfits needing the win to make it into playoffs. I can't blame them for perhaps being a little bit apprehensive about making big plays.
Yeah, both teams really wanting to contest over this Rift Herald on the top side. HiRit went back to base and doesn't have TP, so interesting to see that Vitality are still forced off the Rift Herald. Usually you're going to need to have a 1 or 2 player advantage to secure that in the early game. It does take quite some time to actually knock down. We are 50 seconds away from the Cloud Drake, so expectation is Misfits just want to stall out that Rift Herald for as long as possible. Then the trade on objectives should come at roughly the same time, with Vitality starting it up once more. But now Misfits have the opportunity to interrupt it again, because the Rell and the Sion are still in the area. Razork seems to think the best option is to take away the Raptor camp, and I like this from them. They don't necessarily need to recommit. It's possible that Crownshot off of his own reset was pathing towards the top side too, so in order to keep Kobbe in the bot lane, keep him farming away, and now set up for potential play bot, they've decided to split the map, and now Crownshot has his ultimate, has a flash, has a heal, but no support there just yet.
Places a ward in the bush, so he knows that VandeR's here. Now knows Razork's here as well to join the party. Labrov coming down. Of course, all summon is still available in this bottom lane if Crownshot is dived. Instead, Kobbe just gets a plate, is able to walk away, and now that Cloud Dragon is available on the Rift. So in the end, the expectation is this will be a trade between Vitality and Misfits for that Drake, but instead, Misfits back away.
Yeah, the thing is, Kobbe still hasn't taken his reset. Vetheo just needed one himself, and there's a TP mismatch for Szygenda. So because the Rift Herald was taken down before the Drake spawned, it couldn't be that perfect trade, and instead Misfits going to reset and look to reclaim some territory on the map. But it's actually interesting. Kobbe looks like he's trying to stay in lane until he can finish off that Gale Force. He just took away the Grump from his jungler. Now he's going to be farming yet another wave. He's getting a ton of EXP too, because his support has just not been in the bot lane for a long, long time. Now Misfits likely look to set up for that Drake, because with Misfits ramping up on this Drake and pushing forward towards a very early soul timer in this game as well, we've already said their team fight is so deadly. They're insane divers, right? Sion, Hecarim, Rell, how do you get away from that? Then there's also the Kai'Sa to come in there, and the super long range of a Zoe too. It is very difficult for Vitality to team fight into that, I do definitely feel, and Vitality aren't necessarily going to be able to play to the side lanes along like a LeBlanc and whatnot if these Drakes must be fought over because Misfits have already stacked up 2.
See Vitality putting some time down towards this bottom lane. A plate did fall for them, but neither Crownshot nor Labrov were in the area to get it, so that's 160 gold. That has kind of fallen by the wayside. Skeanz still has that Rift Hold and only has 2 minutes to use it before the plate will go down. Razork didn't get knocked up here. Skeanz going in with the Impale. Pulls him back. There's the Attract Repel from VandeR. Onslaught of Shadows used to get to safety. Meanwhile, in the mid lane, Vetheo and Milica just trading, but Vetheo picks up a heal and should be fine for the moment.
Yeah, we saw a couple of important interactions there that may become very influential later on into the game. For the time being, though, Misfits are flying on in there.
There's no real way for Skeanz to get away from this one. First blood to Vetheo, and that Zoe is popping.
Yeah, Skeanz used his flash to set up that initial pick on towards Razork. Unfortunately, wasn't able to get it because Razork had his ulti up. Skarner can never really ult this Hecarim unless Razork has already used the ulti. Otherwise, it's just way too easy for him to go flying on out there. And like we just saw, the CC setup, the all-in engage potential of Misfits is exceptionally potent.
And importantly, that Rift Herald is now a minute away from really not giving you the bonus that you want out of it, right? We saw Vitality trading a little bit of pressure down towards the bottom side to pick it up. And if that charge doesn't get any plate gold, well, it's basically lost money on the map. Misfits with about a 600 gold lead right now, Ender.
Yeah, right now Vitality looking for some sort of a play. I think Skeanz is going to try to sprint towards bot side and put down the Rift Herald to get that money onto Crownshot. Crownshot was even trading really aggressively on towards Kobbe, again trying to make that bot lane very volatile, look for a potential dive setup off the back of this Rift Herald going down. You can see the mid laner from Vitality also moving in the right direction. The question is, are they willing to commit to this? There's no TPs from Misfits. It's a 4 versus 2, but you're also diving into a Rell, which is not the easiest thing in the world.
Labrov's going to get the knock up there onto VandeR. VandeR tries to flash away. Razork and Vetheo coming in from the side, but the feathers flying. Crownshot gets his first kill. Kobbe's going to have to flash away as well with the TP coming in for Vitality. Misfits do not want to take this fight.
Yeah, and we're seeing the big value out of Vitality's first pick Gnar in a way here, because Szygenda, I think that was his first TP of the game. We might have missed one a little bit earlier on during the time travel, but he's constantly been pushing out HiRit in the top side. HiRit's had to use his TP back to lane quite a few times, used his back into the river fight earlier on, but using that TP advantage now for Vitality sets them up for a very easy dive and for the first turret of the game.
And funneling into Crownshot has been the Vitality way since he joined the team at the mid portion of the season. He is now 1-0-0, Noon Quiver and an Essence Reaver complete. Let's have a quick look at where he stands in terms of gold observers.
Yeah, I want to see how much Kobbe's sitting on too, because he hasn't based in a century.
It's about 1,000 gold between the two AD carries, and as you say, Kobbe spends his 1,300 that he was sitting on right there. So Misfits are still in an okay position. 500 gold behind. They did lose out on the first tower, but remember, they have those 2 dragons. It's an Infernal Soul, and in a minute and 30 seconds, they can look for that 3rd Drake and get themselves onto soul points.
Yeah, important that Vitality are playing from a gold advantage here. Again, looking at these sort of team fights, you're going to need that burst damage onto some priority targets, especially from Milica. Crownshot needs to have the items to be able to cut down this super beefy front line. That's obviously going to be quite difficult, especially delaying the Lord Dominic's regards, because you went for the Essence Reaver first on the Xayah, means your next item likely has to be a Gale Force Kraken Slayer, something like that, which means then 3rd item is the only point in which you can get that Lord Doms to cut down away at the tankiness of Misfits team comp.
We have really seen a rise in Lord Dom's 2nd item on AD carries across the last week or so. 11.5 seems to be a priority item as the Paddle Star hits Labrov and takes away around half of his health.
All right, so we're a minute away from the Infernal Drake spawning. Again, top lane priority has been very pivotal in terms of like TPs and whatnot to make these roams down. Neither top laner has TP or will have teleport by the time this Drake does spawn. So it's important to note that Szygenda does have priority in top side. If Misfits want to fight over this Drake, it is likely HiRit needs to reset, sack his tower, and then make his way down, because otherwise Szygenda is going to be able to push out that top wave and then make that long trek down towards bot river.
Skeanz' flash just came back off cooldown, but he's already caught in the Magnet Storm, and he's already down. Can't flash if you're dead. Labrov next on the menu as the feathers pull back through Vetheo, but Misfits get the kill. They were looking for Vetheo. Jumps forward, just about survives. Was that a pot? Was that a triumph? I do not quite know, but Vetheo should have died and somehow got out alive.
What on earth is going on? Vetheo is a man on a mission there, somehow gets out of that with his own life. Now Szygenda's moved back down from top lane, so Misfits won't be able to instantly start off the Drake when it does spawn. Both sides rather, going to take their resets and then look to reconvene around this Infernal Drake. Now HiRit has pushed out topside, is running down through that top river, has his ultimate ready to go and ready to kick off a team fight.
And Sion can be devastating in these fights. Szygenda goes into raged form, gets the wallop, has the Gnar available. VandeR no flash to go in, no Magnet Storm, but now he's going to dive forward. The paddle star onto Szygenda, does quite a lot of work. Flash forward, decimating smash, Gnar'd back. Labrov looking for the flank position himself. He's going to knock Razork back into the fight, and already HiRit's dead, and Kobbe and Vetheo did not have an opportunity to attack.
That was just a 4v5 too. Milica was in the bot side pushing out waves. That's why Misfits thought they could fight, but Skeanz never used his ultimate in the previous engagement. Misfits had absolutely nothing to work with outside of HiRit in that play, so VandeR just instantly got popped. The layering CC from Vitality was just a little bit too good, and that has secured Vitality their first Drake of the game, the Infernal at that. So watch this play one more time. Again, it's Misfits with a clear numbers advantage. The difference is their mid laner a little bit far from the play and no ultimates ready to go. So Szygenda says, okay, what if we just CC the front line here? Skeanz, what have you got for us? And then VandeR goes flying in with no possible follow-up from the rest of the team.
Yeah, Kobbe gets an Icathian Rain and a Void Seeker out in this entire fight. No opportunity to do any more damage, and Xayah is just free-firing on the front line. I did work out why Vetheo survived earlier on, by the way. He's running Time Warp Tonic, so the 50% extra HP that he got out of popping his Corrupted Potion was enough.
Is that why we missed 3 minutes of gameplay? That's the question.
Yeah, because he warped the time.
He warped the time.
He's also got the Minion Dematerializer, so as we jump on into the action once again, Rift held the target for both the teams right now.
Eerily silent on the Rift here. You'll notice, though, Vetheo has gone for a second item QSS. This is absolutely something you need against the Skarner.
Here we go.
As the Zoe here, Misfits going in.
Couldn't get close enough. The Attract Repel is going to land the stun. Onslaught of Shadows doing a huge amount of work. There's a Gnar into the wall. Suppression lands on to VandeR, and he's dead. Razork trying to run off towards the top side, but Misfits are still advancing. Misfits are still pushing in. Labrov misses the flash pulverize combo, but still they have caught out HiRit, and Vitality are winning out in these fights. They're winning out in the team fights, Ender.
It's a critical fight to win. Their Vitality looking to play spoiler against Misfits. If Misfits lose this game, their playoff hopes will be dashed. They will not have a chance of making it into the postseason. And now 2 fights in a row, it has been Vitality to best them.
And not only that, if Vitality win, SK and Fnatic will make it into the playoffs. They'll be locked in, and the match between Excel and Sjokz will be that much more meaningful. The winner of that will make it in as our 6th team in playoffs. Look at how big Crownshot is right now, Ender. 4-0-2 on this Xayah, Essence Reaver, Gale Force complete. Kobbe is lagging so far behind.
Yeah, Vitality have looked like a completely different team ever since introducing Crownshot onto the roster, and now he's the one with 4 kills. Yesterday it was Kobbe with a triple kill on the Justin in the bot room to completely end the game, and now it's Crownshot going hard.
Just trying to demolish Zoe in the mid lane. Featherstorm used. Vetheo didn't burn his flash, didn't burn his ignite. Crownshot will get the Rift Herald charge in here. The tower goes down. Labrov trying to hex flash forward, but can't quite land it. Sleep's gonna connect though, and Razork forced away. Szygenda beating out HiRit once again in the side lane. This Sion can be very tanky, but right now he can't even win in the 1v1. He's going to get chased under the tower, but there's the Unstoppable Onslaught. Szygenda has the flash to try and get away, but the Decimating Smash will not be enough. Onslaught of Shadows used in the end as Razork cleans up the kill.
The Szygenda feeling himself a little bit too much in the bot lane there. Saw the solo kill in his eyes, but the rest of his team was not ready to help him. Razork was able to influence that bot lane. A big pickup there for the Hecarim. Misfits need all the help they can get. The game sort of felt like it was starting to slip away from them. So they are down 3,000 gold and already paying the QSS tax in pivotal positions. Zoe definitely doesn't want to sidetrack her build to spend 1,300 on an item that isn't going to give her added burst potential, but definitely needs that added safety net. And the other thing Misfits have to consider is with the power of this Xayah on the other side ramping towards that Lord Dominix you would expect to come through. Well, that's pretty much the only good answer Vitality have into the Misfits front line. So they need to find some way to isolate Crownshot in the fight, whether it's a sleep, whether it's, VandeR Razork playing disruption into the back line, because he is the player that will completely destroy Misfits come these 5v5s.
21 minutes in, Vitality using that advantage, using their Fed AD carry to get about 3,000 gold ahead. There's an Infernal Dragon up in a minute's time. It could have been sold for Misfits, but they flubbed that mid lane fight. Crownshot was too big for them. And so now it is only the 2nd dragon of the game for Vitality, or the 3rd for Misfits. And the question becomes, like, how do you isolate Crownshot in these fights, because Labrov's doing a really good job of being a frontline. Also, you have Szygenda there, who can always Gnar out. You've got Skeanz, who can isolate one of your players. It's very difficult to catch out Crownshot when he's got both his summons and his ultimate up.
Yeah, and I'd also say that because Gale Force is an item, it has given him yet another sort of outplay maneuver in a team fight. It's one of the biggest things about the introduction of Gale Force as an item for ADCs, is that usually ADCs don't have a lot when it comes to individual agency and self-counterplay. Now Crownshot doesn't necessarily just have to rely on his support or his jungler to keep him alive. He has yet another tool in his arsenal to kite away from Misfits.
Okay, they know Milica isn't here. He does have the TP to join the fight. Paddlestar goes wide. There's double turbo chem tanks on the side of Misfits. If they look for the engage, perhaps they can catch out Vitality before Vitality have a chance to answer. HiRit has the Predator now on the sign as well. TP coming in. Milica's going to join the fray. Szygenda going in. Look for the Gnar, but the Magnet Storm's going to stop them. On the backline, Vetheo has been marred up. The Feather Storm is Crownshot just about alive.
He's alive!
Uses the Gale Force. Uses every tool at his disposal to get out. Veteo's dead. VandeR's dead. And perhaps Misfits' hopes of making playoffs have gone to the grave with them. Vitality pushing mid.
Misfits threw everything they could at Crownshot, and Crownshot said, not today. He survives. Vitality take yet another team fight, delete Vetheo and VandeR from the Rift, and they will claim the second Infernal Drake for themselves. Misfits have yet to find an angle that works for them come these team fights, but they have a 5-minute window now to try and look and repeat against Crownshot. We watch the fight one more time. Look at everything Misfits send towards that Xayah. It's going to be HiRit and crew to start it off. VandeR goes in with the big Magnet Storm, followed it up by the CC. It's just about everything you could possibly ask for, but the burst damage isn't quite there because Vetheo spent so much time trying to kite away from this Gnar, getting solo killed in the backline of all things. So Crownshot is able to get out of there when there is only one damage deal really hitting away at him.
And it's so difficult for Vetheo to get out of that as well, because as soon as the Gnar's on top of you, it's like, well, if I don't have flash, don't really have the movement speed in that moment to get away. If I jump away, I'm just jumping right back.
Exactly, and this is where it is so critical that Veteo's positioning is flawless. Yep. What was he not using in that fight? Terrain to buy space, to extend the range of his E, all these things. He has to be playing very far back in these fights. The issue is, his team wants to go very, very fast. The communication has to be perfect. His individual execution also has to be top-notch.
Also a bad map to be playing Zoe on. Infernal map.
Absolutely.
Gets rid of those walls, gets rid of that terrain that can really help you land those long-range sleepy trouble bubbles. Misfits now trying to regain control around their own red buff, but Vitality are 5,000 gold ahead, have double Infernals in their back pocket. There is a whole item advantage for Crownie, and perhaps that Comet is going to the moon today.
Misfits, playoff hopes on the line, and they have to get through this Xayah.
This is such a good fight for them, though. If they can get this corralled fight where all of Vitality are in one spot, they have to step into darkness, but if they can find the engage.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Milica's in the fog of war from the top side, Labrov down underneath, and I'm not sure they're going to scout this one out.
Crownshot has no summons, but VandeR's already caught out and suppressed. It's all on Kobbe and Vetheo to do what they can. Razork going in with the onslaught of shadows. Crownshot locked up, but there's just no follow-up, there's just no damage, and HiRit on the back line will be taken out. Vitality are going to ace Misfits, and I'm sorry, but the bunnies are dead.
Vitality show up. It's a bee's knees kind of day. Taking that fight flawlessly. 5 kills for none. Crownshot, 3 items, absolutely tearing through the Misfits frontline. What can they do from this play early on? Labrov's Alistar, perfect. Q flash, headbutts Rell into the rest of the team. Rell can't do anything. Straight into the suppression. The combination, flawless. And again, it's another 4v5 fight. Where's Milica during all this? He's not doing anything. He's just running around, but Vitality don't need him. He's just the end of fight security. It is Crownshot and Szygenda dealing all the damage.
The thing is, Vetheo and Kobbe can't even get through Szygenda. Right? If you can't kill this Gnar, how are you ever going to get onto Crownshot? Makes it so difficult for Misfits. They are now 9,000 gold behind, and their playoff hopes are hanging by a thread.
It is looking oh so difficult, and the one player that couldn't get fed for Misfits to look strong, if they could have just shut down Crownshot, their front line so hard to cut through, but because Crownshot played these fights so well, playing off of the rest of his team too, the setup from Vitality has been excellent. Vitality now with a massive advantage. 10,000 gold here, sieging down on these inner turrets. And Misfits, they have pretty much one direction they can go. It is in these fights, but going in against this hyper-fed Vitality lineup is oh so difficult. Crownshot's flash also just about to return, and once he has that, we saw it the last time. It's an easy escape.
I mean, he didn't even need to use any summoners in the last fight and was still able to rip through Misfits. Vitality, they can't make playoffs themselves, but they can dash some hopes against the Rocks today. Misfits against this Baron, just trying to clear out the waves. Milica catching the wave in mid, and Misfits 5 members strong, looking for perhaps an engage in this bottom side. But what can you do? VandeR has the Magnet Sword, and VandeR has the flash. Are you going to go in?
Look at the cannon minions just beating down on this turret. Vetheo can't step forward. He's concerned about himself, so he can't actually use his range to clear away those waves. Both inhibitor towers fall in mid and bot at the same time. Misfits still don't think they can fight. They're going to sack their inhibitors, hope that Vitality can't end the game and gain access to all the gold, the minions flooding into their base, but it is looking so dire for the Misfits.
Just have to look back at what we said after draft. Misfits got everything they wanted here, and with 4 cannons and a Baron and 5 members of Vitality, Misfits are on their last legs. One Nexus tower stands between them and being eliminated, and the root comes out. Milica dives in, Crownshot goes legendary, and the Womboist of combos manages to kill a Crownshot. Kobbe has to survive, but he's suppressed, pulled back into the meat grinder that is Vitality. Kobbe is dead. Misfits are dead, and Vitality have killed off any hopes the Rabbits had of making playoffs. Say thank you to Vitality, SK and Fnatic, because they have secured you your spot in the final 6.
The final weekend of the LEC has been absolutely ridiculous. Vitality come in and deliver yet another upset to break the hearts of Misfits fans around Europe. And oh my word, Crownshot coming into this team. This team, remind you, completely turned it around in the second half of the season, got big wins against teams like Fnatic critically to have a shot coming into this final weekend of play. They were eliminated from playoffs contention just earlier this weekend, but this team is looking so much better from the start of the split and looking like a strong contender in summer.
They won 4 games in the second half and only 1 in the first. I think that says everything you need to know. Your key player of the game votes at LEC on Twitter. Szygenda, Crownshot, and Labrov are your options. Before we go into the break, though, I do want to say commiserations to Misfits. You look at how much that team has changed. You look at Vetheo coming in as a rookie. You look at how much they had to do to try and get back into this. It has been a good season for them, even if they couldn't quite make playoffs.
Yeah, and you know, they went for the comfort in this game, right? Trying to get Vetheo back onto the Zoe, trying to get that perfect symmetry. It did not work out in the end, but there's always summer split.
There is always summer. Coming up next, we have the most important game of them all, a direct elimination match between Excel and Schalke. The winner secures the final spot in our spring playoffs.
They are out there, waiting to be discovered. Some of them are big, and some of them are small. But that's the thing with ideas. They don't just come to you. To find them, you have to move. Kia, movement that inspires.
You don't have a chance against me. I can calculate 90 trillion moves in advance. Not fair. Not fair.
Red Bull gives you wings.
Welcome back to the LEC Super Week. Vitality take down Misfits, and with that, they eliminate Misfits from playoff contention. And Labrov, congrats on winning this last game of spring season. Must be good to end the spring season on a good note. What does this represent for you?
Hello. Yeah, it definitely feels good winning, but it's still not. It still doesn't feel perfect, you know, because we could have been playing like this from the start, and maybe and we wouldn't be out of playoffs.
When you think about Vitality, the casters were saying that in the second half of the season, you won 4 games when you won only 1 in the first half of spring. Did you feel like things were turning around for you? And can you explain maybe why you haven't been able to translate the work you were doing during official games?
Yeah, I mean, I think in the start we were just simply playing really bad, everyone in the team, I feel like. And we were not stepping up, and that's why it was hard to win games. But yeah, right now I feel like slowly we're playing better and better.
Yeah, we could see that, especially during that last game. I mean, what was different today compared to the other days? Because you entered this last week with hopes for playoffs that were reduced to nothing after Friday. And I'm sorry for you about that, but I mean, it must have changed your mindset going into the last games.
Yeah, I guess we just played without regrets anymore. And since we were out of playoffs, and we just try to play it for our own self-pride, I guess.
Right, now focusing on positives and summer. Any learnings that you can take from this spring season that can help you perform better in summer? And to, I don't know, have games that the one that we just saw you have now?
Yeah, I think, yeah, I definitely learned a lot this season about how to, like, how everyday life, for example, helps me play better. And yeah, I'm definitely gonna stick to it for summer.
Right, I hope you can remember this last win and that it can help you in summer. But some other teams are looking for the last place in playoff. There is 1 place remaining, because with your victory, SK and Fnatic are now locked in playoffs, so they can thank you actually for this one. But who can take the last spot? This will be decided in the upcoming game, which will be Schalke 04 versus XL. Who's taking the last spot, Labrov?
I would say probably Schalke. God Gilius is too good.
God Gilius is too good. We'll see about that in a few minutes. But for now, thank you so much for the interview. Have a good break, and I'm looking forward to seeing you again in summer.
Thank you. I hope so.
You're welcome. And yeah, and let's take a break now, and we'll be back with the last playoff decider, Schalke 04 versus XL. Stay tuned.